Is this the worst week ever to try to sell your classic or enthusiast car on Bring a Trailer because of all the live auctions that are happening at Monterey Car Week? We're going to try to answer that question. Plus, we're going to make some new predictions. This is Bid Nerds. The bidding starts now. Bid Nerds is your YouTube car game show. Hey guys, welcome to the Nerds. We are live. It's going to be a little bit of a different show tonight. My partner Michael Deeb is at Monterey Car Week, and he is going to chime in at some point tonight with a live report at Car Week in Monterey. But you might see over there to right next to me. I don't know which area. I don't know which way to point. I think it's that way. There you go. Andy Stahl, how you doing? Welcome to the show, Andy.
Hey man, good to be back.
Good to be back. All right. Tonight, the big question is, was this the worst week ever to try to sell your classic or enthusiast car on any of the online auction sites? We've seen some really kind of crazy results this week, and I think it has a lot to do with half the people that normally would be spending time looking at auctions like Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, and P-Car Market. They're all in Monterey or on their way to Monterey. So we always start out the show by reconciling the listings that we analyzed on the last episode to see how wrong or right we were, as it were. So let's get right to it. This is also going to be a little clunky, guys. Usually I have my partner Michael Deeb here to hang out, and he usually introduces the car, and then I push all the buttons. So this is going to be particularly challenging. So this is a live show. We appreciate you guys. Thanks for bearing with us in advance. All right, so the first car that we had on the list from the last week, we're going to revisit this 1994, let's see here, there it is, 1994 Porsche 911 Turbo. That's a 964 variant. This is a Turbo S X85 Flachbau. I don't know how to say that correctly. I really should not have even tried, but look at this car, guys. This thing is something really special. 30,000 miles. It's cobalt blue with a crazy interior. You got to keep in mind, though, guys, that this car I think it's like one of 39 U.S. spec cars, right? So there's not very many of these in existence, and which would make this car obviously very special. This car does hold a salvage title. So this car did have an accident in its past and was restored perfectly. If you go through this listing, we won't get super into it since we did it on the last episode, but this car was brought back to factory spec. I mean, this car really is an excellent specimen, despite the fact that it did have that accident in the past. But will that make a big difference in what it brings on Bring a Trailer? Now, these cars typically close, of the 39 that exist, when one does come for sale, they almost always sell for more than $1 million, or at least contemporary results have shown that. I'm not sure exactly when the last time one of these was actually listed. They don't come up very often, obviously, but when they do, they bring the big money. Andy, on the last episode, my partner Michael Deeb, he speculated that, I'm trying to get the numbers here. What was the number that he came in at? He speculated that this car would still bring $685,000 on Bring a Trailer. I was not as optimistic. I thought this thing might bring $650,000, but I did say that I don't think it'll sell at that number. I think it's just, I think it's going to be, we realized when we started talking about the cars on the last episode that, oh my gosh, this is going to be during Car Week. It seems like the kind of person that would want this car would be on site at a Sotheby's or, one of those big auctions there, or at least on their way there. So would there really be that much attention for this car that closed a couple of days ago, or tried to? What do you think this car got up to, Andy? And did it sell? Maybe I'm totally wrong, or are you cheating and looking?
See, no, I didn't cheat and look.
Okay.
I would have taken the under on this one as well. Now, of course, with the benefit of hindsight, knowing that the Car Week was this week and the buyers are all there, I definitely would have taken the under. I feel like people that are paying over $500,000 for a car are going to be influenced by the blemish of the salvage title. I mean, that's going to hurt the thing. And like I said, I'll take the under on it. I'll be in the 500s with you.
Give me a number. You know the rules of the show. You got to give me a number. You can't just say under.
555.
555, he says. Okay, so that'd be a pretty good bid, and it would win you this particular listing because, as it turned out, this car was only able to muster up. Let's see here. Drum roll, please. Again, guys, technical issues. $482,000 where it failed to sell with just 25 bids. Now, I don't think that the title issue should be an issue that marks this car by 100%, right? If we think that these things are typically going for over $1 million and this thing doesn't even get half that, I could definitely see the title being an issue, but maybe 10%, 20%, but 100% different. That just seems really
excessive.
Off. Yeah, excessive, right? I mean, considering too that how many singers and singers always sell for $1 million, right? How many of those sell for over $1 million? And a lot of them are based on wrecked cars. Or salvage titles or burned down cars. Literally one of the most common things I've heard with Singer chassis is that they're from cars that had engine fires, which, then that's affecting metal fatigue and all that kind of stuff. This car is so perfect and so beautiful. I just think it had to be a result of the fact that everyone was in Car Week. Anything else to say about that?
Yeah, you almost think that if Brigga Trailer were thinking, they would not allow cars on their site over a certain price range during this time of the year, during this week. I mean, wouldn't that have to be some good foresight to have? We're going to say, okay, you know what? We're just going to wait for an extra week to start the auction for the people that have not blown their wad at Car Week. I mean, I feel like that would have been a smart thing to do from Brigga Trailer's part. Leave the pedestrian vehicles up, the lower end stuff that aren't deep six figures, but stuff like this, like, you know what, we're gonna be pragmatic and hold off on this one for an extra week.
I don't know if I necessarily agree that they should not carry these cars, but what they should probably at least do is let the sellers know, hey, your car has a reserve over, like you said, six figures. By the way, this particular week is Car Week. Are you sure you want it to run at that time? Because I think maybe somebody's like, I don't care, let's give it a whirl. And there might be some results that you'll see a little later that might prove us completely, totally wrong. Let's take a look and revisit the next car on the list. Before we do, shout out to the Nerd Herd and let us know what you guys think of the results of this beautiful I guess it would be an X85 1994 Flachbau 911. Was the seller smart to not take that money? What do they do now, too? That's the really big question. You got a car that only got $500,000 that should be $1 million car. Now what do you do? Car Week's over. You're going to have to wait to Amelia Island, maybe this winter or something like that. Let us know what you would advise this particular seller to do. And I do want to shout out to the Nerd Herd. Thanks, guys, for hanging out with us. I think a lot of them are on their way to Car Week too. I think we got some new people hanging out. Jose, if you're new in the Nerd Herd, make sure you introduce yourself. If you're watching this show live and this is your first time, definitely get into the chat and say hello over there because the Nerd Herd is awesome, very welcoming folks, great guys and gals, and it's always great to have more people hanging out in the community. All right, we are going to revisit the next car on the list. This car is one that Andy, our good friend here, is very familiar with because this was his listing. I think we're kind of maybe we're letting people know that this one didn't go as well as we would have liked it. Yours truly shot the assets for this car, and if I do say so myself, they turned out beautiful. I don't know if this car could have been represented any better. Andy, you know the car. Tell us about this thing. What year was it? How many miles?
Yeah.
Give us the deets.
It's a 2011 SLS AMG. It's got 20-some thousand miles on it. One owner, bought and serviced here in Las Vegas. Garage kept, and I'm selling it for an estate that I'm handling here in Las Vegas. The car's in excellent condition. I mean, a couple of rock chips on the front that I put in the comments on the ad, one door ding on the driver's door, some scrapes on the bottom of the front bumper that just can't be avoided, but the inside is clean, clean title, all original paint, and it drives like a dream. I mean, it's just brutally fast, and I'm, despite your assets, my ass is butthurt from the fact that this thing failed to sell. But,
well, all right. So we buried that lead here. I guess we kind of ruined it. Look, Michael Deeb thought that this car would bring $182,011. I don't know where he got the 11 from. I guess that's from the year. I was hoping that it would break 190. So I said $190,000. I wasn't 100% sure what your reserve was. But we just saw one just a week before. We talked a little bit about it bringing 183, and this car is as nice or nicer with nicer assets. So I thought for sure it would bring at least that much. But that's what Car Week will get you, because unfortunately our car failed to sell, like Andy said. And was only able to bring $155,000 with 10 bids. That is like no action. There is no way that, a lot of times we say, sellers should really have just taken the money. The market has spoken. There's a correction. Things have changed. But there's no way this is only a $155,000 car. No way. This car is definitely worth more. I think it should bring at least 180, should even bring over 200, really. Maybe 3 or 4 months ago, it probably would have, but we have seen a correction in the market. Andy, I know that you're not happy with these results, but what do you think happened here?
So on Monday, I get a call from one of the bidders, and it turned out it was the top bidder for the SLS from a week ago that had the red interior that got bid up to 180 and failed to sell. And I spoke with him at length, explained the situation about the car. He said he had the warm fuzzies, and he was looking forward to bidding this one up and hopefully winning this one. He made an offer to the car that didn't sell last week, and just they couldn't come to terms. Even though his offer was very reasonable, he didn't get the warm and fuzzies about the guy. So when he spoke with me, he was like, "Oh yeah, this is done with. I'm going to bid it up, and this is going to go home with me." Apparently, this guy's owned a half a dozen of these in the past, but doesn't have one right now. So I don't know what happened to him. I don't know where he disappeared to, but it was interesting to get a little bit of the backstory on the silver one from last week.
Do you have his contact information?
I sure do.
Yeah, I mean, and you haven't reached out to him and just
no,
said,
not
hey,
yet,
because
this just closed today. This just closed earlier today, so I need to reach out and be like, dude, show me the money.
Yeah, and at this point, it's off site, right? So the guy could save some money. You're not going to have to pay the buyer's premium since you already have the contact information. At that point, I think you're legally okay to make a deal there. And ethically, I think that's okay. If you're not able to make a deal on this car, the question now is, now what do you do?
Yeah, does it go to a local consignment shop? Does it go to another platform? I mentioned earlier that I've already been approached by one of the other platforms that they would be very happy to list it for me. They can get it started right away, and that they're sure they can do better.
Which platform was that, and how soon after your fail to sell did they hit you up?
I could tell you exactly how soon, because it was just within minutes of the auction ending. I missed a phone call, and I wrote him back and said, I'm at an appointment. So I closed at 11 something this morning Vegas time. It was 12:38 p.m. I got a phone call and then a text message from a guy at P-Car Market asking, saying with
any excuse to run the P-Car Market Sucks logo is we are ready to jump all over that. So within moments, so they clearly have a staff member, at least one, maybe it's an intern that's sitting around who's waiting for cars to fail to sell. So they're like, hey, we can fail to sell that too. Give them a call.
Said, we can do better. We feel we can do better. And I'm like, I gotta think about it. I thought about it, by the way.
Now you, the same estate has another one of these, right?
Yeah, 2012 SLS AMG Roadster with this, I forget the color, but it's this coppery silver matte finish, lower miles, but apparently the Roadsters sell for maybe 50% of the Gullwings. So that one's going to be more approachable for anybody who's looking for one of these.
Yeah, so I think, I spoke with Michael Deeb before we did the show about what do you do now that you've had a really nice car, FDS, kind of extenuating circumstances. It wasn't really the car's fault or the listing's fault. It was just timing. We have seen BAT give certain cars another bite at the apple, and I think they would do that for this one, especially if you go to them and say, all right, here's the listing for the Roadster. And I really think that, given that we still have a little bit of summer left, if we can get those assets for the Roadster together ASAP, get that car listed, get that thing, and get it to have a successful close, they're probably going to let you bring this car back to a listing again. And, maybe if that's contingent on the deal, go, hey, I'll give you the listing for this one if you give me if you relist that car. That was kind of your idea too, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I'm wondering if they'll phrase it like that in the ad. If they'll say, like, due to extenuating circumstances, we are representing this car, and let people read between the lines. Some people might think it was car week, some people might think the seller backed out, or it was just now we have a lower reserve, whatever people want to think about it. But yeah, get it another 7-day period sometime after the Roadster.
I think that would be a reasonable approach, and would certainly advise you try that before you try P-Car Market, because frankly, if it sells on, or if you put it on P-Car Market and it fails to sell, which it will, because P-Car Market does do surprisingly well sometimes, but almost never on cars that aren't Porsches. I think that would just burn the car at that point. If you have two FTSs, you got an issue. Another option would be maybe to go to Hagerty, but we know Hagerty would be like, well, we're not going to give you a reserve above what it failed to reach on BAT would be my guess. But that's something you would have to talk to someone at Hagerty about. What do you guys think of Andy's SLS? Did it fail to sell because of Car Week? Everyone was there? Or do you think there's just been a big shift in the market, and the course of the last 2-3 weeks, these cars just aren't worth that much anymore? Let us know what you think in the comments below, and we got to move on because there are other cars that may answer the question, was this just the worst week ever to try to sell a car on BAT because of Car Week? All right, the next car on the list, this one, on the last episode, we're going to go ahead and revisit this 1985 Ford Mustang. This is a cop car, guys. This is one of those cars that someone has done up all the stuff. Look, I should have the listing handy again. We've got some technical issues, which makes that a bit of a challenge. But if you just bear with me, come on. There we go. We've got it. This particular car is a 1985 347 powered LX SSP. This is a 5-speed. The SSP, I think, is Special Forces or something. It just basically means it's a cop car. This thing has all the literal bells and whistles. This has a siren. The car has 33,000 miles, but it is a TMU. It's a 347 cubic inch V8 crate engine. Look, does anybody want... I don't understand the appeal of these. Andy, do you like ex-cop cars? Or
I don't. But here's the thing. I have a neighbor of mine whose dad is a retired Nevada police officer, and he collects old police cars. He actually has a little mini fleet. Now, his are much more antique than this. What, Fox Body is an 85, one of those?
Yeah.
But he has the older ones. But my point is, there are people that collect old police cars that aren't just, the ones that went to the auction that have all the lights stripped off of them and the rubber plugs in the roof so they could drive around like crazy people because people think they're still cop cars. But there are some people that collect these things. They're just like fire trucks.
Yeah, and there were, I think I said it on the last episode. I was kind of like, I get one of these if you are a kid and you want a powerful car. You want something with low insurance, and you go to that auction, you get that old Crown Vic. That makes sense. You can get one for $3,000 or $4,000. Doesn't cost a lot of money to maintain. You get a lot of performance. Why not for a kid or a first car or something like that? But anyone else, I just do not understand the appeal of these things, and I have a certain disdain for people that want something like this, because how many times have you been on the freeway and you've had you see a cop car coming up behind you and you're like, oh crap, you got to slow down, you got to move over, traffic is slowing down because everyone's freaking out thinking it's a cop, and then it passes you and it turns out it's like a security, like a mall cop or something like that, and you can tell it's just not a cop. Who wants to be that guy? Who wants that juju? I don't know. All that said, my partner Michael Deeb didn't think this thing would bring more than 16,347. I took the over at 17,000 just because I do think there are dorks out there that want stuff like this, and it does turn out that I won, but I don't feel comfortable taking the win here because this thing went for well over what I thought it would bring. $24,250 this car brought and sold, and it had quite a bit of action if I remember correctly. This thing got 33 bids, so there's people out there that want stuff like this. Andy, what do you think of that result?
I'm shocked. I'm honestly shocked. I mean, what does an 85 Mustang without all the gingerbread sell for? They can't be much, right? I mean, I know this one's clean and it has the pretty lights and all that stuff, but I can't imagine someone paying the premium for that. But again, this isn't my jam, so
yeah. And I think the big question is, since we're asking, is this the worst week to have sold a car because of what's going on with all the live auctions in Car Week? I can't imagine this is a car that a young person would have bought, right? This is definitely for that boomer collector, or even a boomer adjacent guy like me, a Gen Xer, who has a bunch of cool stuff in the garage and would add something like that. Be like, okay, I've got a warehouse, I've got my Flachbau, I've got my, I don't know, Countach, I've got all my other cars, dream cars that I ever wanted. Oh, this would be fun for another 50 grand to throw in there, right? I've got a bunch of extra money laying around. Why not? I kind of wonder if this car would have brought $50,000 if more eyes were on the auction site today, or was this good for it? And 24 grand really is a high number. What do you think of that?
I just feel like the Venn diagram of people that are bidding at Car Week is here, and the people that buy cars like this, old police cars all gussied up, is here. I don't know that there's much of an overlap between the people that I was trying to get to bid on the SLS and the people that ended up with a police interceptor in their garage.
Well, I don't remember the guy's name. It's at the tip of my tongue. Everyone's gonna correct me hopefully in the comments. The owner of the Peterson Museum in LA, one of the biggest car collectors in the world, owns one of these. So I do kind of think he is the guy, because I think the guys that want these cop cars, they don't have the money, right? The guy that wants a cop car doesn't really have $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 to buy a really nice one like this. So they're going to buy that $3,000, $4,000, $10,000 one, right? The guy that wants this one, because this, you got to admit, this is about as nice as a ex-cop cars you're going to possibly find. I think it is that big buyer, and I think it really is just an auxiliary sale. But I don't know. I think I'm beating a dead horse, or Mustang, as it were. What do you guys think of the results of this 85 cop car? Was that well bought, or would it have brought more money if all those boomers were hanging out at their computer? Let us know in the comments below. And we are going to revisit another car from the last episode. We actually did more cars than usual. There was still one more. This one I think is going to make us kind of question our premise here. This is, let's see here, stand by, guys. Who else is in the room today? Andy, talk about the other person that's in the room today while I cue this up.
Well, I can't show her to you, but my wife Lindsay's
She should
here.
go over by you and say hello.
Oh, she's going to come over here and say hello. You guys are lucky.
Look at that. Hot dang. Hold on. Wait. We go. Look at that. You get a whole look at who is that?
This is my wife, Lindsay. She learned how to drive manual transmission so that I would propose to her.
True.
And I proposed to you, tomorrow, but in 2015, I think it was. So, yeah. So 9 years ago tomorrow, I proposed to this pretty girl. But she knew how to drive stick.
I did. It was a very important thing.
Because at the time we had a Corrado, and I'm representing my Corrado user group shirt tonight. And what else? A TDI sport wagon with a 6-speed manual, and a Subaru Baja with a 5-speed manual. And what else do we have? Anything at the time?
You guys have had all the, you guys are great. This is the way you're supposed to do it, guys. Find a girl who can drive a stick and everything's going to be okay.
Put a ring on it.
Right? I mean, if you don't, you're going to have problems. My wife and I have been married for 24 years, and it's only because she drives a manual.
That's it.
That's
the only
it.
reason.
That's it. Everyone asks, "What's the? How have you guys been married? How have you guys had such a great?" It's like, she drives a stick, man. Figure it out. Do the math. All right. We got one more car on the list. We're going to revisit this 19... Oh, jeez, you guys, I thought that I had this queued up for you. This is a 1985 Mercedes-Benz 500 SEC. Look at this beast. This thing is something else. This is full-blown Patrick Swayze right here. This is Roadhouse. This is the AMG. It's 51,000 miles. It's got the 6-liter, I guess they call this the Hammer engine. So this doesn't have the big flares like the Hammer car does, but look at this thing. This is just something else. Now, we were talking on the last episode. We both Michael Deeb and I noticed that this car's trim, the plastic cladding along the bottom, seems to have really succumbed to the Florida. It has shrunk, it has warped, it doesn't line up. And because of a lot of these little details, this car has fairly low miles. It seems to be in great condition otherwise, but I was concerned that the trim just wasn't there, and I didn't think it would really bring the big money, and I thought that would hold it back. So did my partner, but he did bid more than I did. He said this car would bring $105,500. I was much more bearish at $90,000. I didn't even think this would sell. This is on Cars and Bids, guys. This doesn't bring a trailer, so it's on Doug DeMero's site. Doug DeMero's the weird guy. People like the weird stuff on his site, but man, $100,000 cars are tough for him. Andy, what do you think of this 85 500 Patrick Swayze SEC?
That car is hot, and I'm going to split the difference between you guys and say 95,000. But I'll tell you, with the Corrado, for example, bringing it back to that, there's guys that are now printing 3D replacement parts for it. Trim pieces are being remade, molds being remade. If you really were going to drop 6 figures on a car like this, I'm sure there's somebody out there who can reproduce those side skirts and the trim on the sides to make them look perfect again.
Yeah, and that would really make a huge difference. The question would be is like, how much would that cost, right? I mean, sometimes getting custom stuff like that can cost tens of thousands of dollars. And if this car is a $90,000 to $100,000 car, then would spending another $10,000 or $15,000 on these crazy trim pieces help you out, or would it make that big a difference? Well, here's, I think, the answer to that question. Like I said, I thought it was going to be 90. Deep thought it was 105, and then Andy's at 95. You guys, are you sitting down for this one? This car on 23 bids, wait for it, brought $180,000. This thing sold. This thing brought more money than Andy's SLS.
Holy Hannah.
On Bring a Trailer just the day before. What planet does that make sense? Is the person that wants this particular car, is that because this person never goes to this? Like, this is like a rapper's car or a DJ's car, or somebody. Does this person go to Car Week at all that wants this car? Is it just like, what's going on? What do you think of that result?
That's nuts. You know what this car reminds me of? Have you seen the picture of Tupac's car when he was over here on Koval when he got shot? It's very similar to this. Suge Knight was driving it. Tupac was in the passenger seat and he got shot and killed. That's the era of this car. And I'm looking at the rest of the pictures as you're scrolling through. I love the car. Don't get me wrong. I just don't see more than a 2011 SLS AMG. A 2011 SLS also AMG.
Yeah. I mean, this just bottles the mind. Like, who would say, yeah, I'll drop 180 on that, but that gull wing over there, I could. I mean, and look, I'm the first guy that will say, look, I like the old stuff better, genuinely. I mean, if there's a lot of 85 911s that I would prefer over a 2000 anything they made in what, this car? I don't know. What do you guys think?
The rest of the pictures, there was some surface rust underneath it, and I saw a bit of the headliner was falling. You mentioned the trim pieces. Like, it's not a perfect specimen, but man, what did they have? 2 or 3 bidders that just had to have it to relive their 90s glory days,
Well, Michael Myers is all excited to let you know that Tupac got shot in a four-door BMW, apparently. But what's the difference? It's the same era.
Was he in the 7 Series? I swear one of those
I don't
rappers
know.
got shot in one of these Mercedes.
I don't know. My friend Sir
a
Mix-a-Lot up in Seattle, he loves these. His first car that he got when he first made money was one of these. He doesn't fly. So when his first couple of years of touring around the country, he only did it in his Mercedes, in one of these 500 SECs. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe Sir Mix-a-Lot is just hot right now, and everybody wants to be like Sir Mix-a-Lot. I don't know. Stranger things have happened. What do you guys think of the result of this 1985 Mercedes-Benz 500 SEC AMG that brought $180,000? Doug DeMiro got this sucker done. Wow, congratulations. And Andy's car didn't on BAT. Somebody tell us what the heck world we're living in. And we are going to be right back with all new predictions. We've got some other cars that are still yet to close still this week during Car Week. So we want to take a look at those listings and think and try to figure out, will Monterey Car Week affect the closings of those cars? Let's find out. We will in just a few moments if I can figure out which button to push.
You could win this Lotus Emira from Vegas Auto Gallery at Vegas Auto Fest. Hi, I'm Rami from The Rami Show on YouTube, and I've teamed up with Vegas Auto Gallery to give anyone who goes to Vegas Auto Fest a chance to win this car. Get your tickets at vegasautofest.com and come to Red Rock Country Club Saturday, September 21st to win.
Spectator tickets are just $20 and kids under 16 are free. So get your tickets now for a chance to win this new Lotus Emira.
From Vegas Auto Gallery, Vegas Auto Fest. The drivers are coming.
Hey guys, you're probably looking at your watch and wondering if Bid Nerds will ever end. So you better talk to our friends at Our Smiths to make sure your Rolex, Tag Heuer, AP, or any fine timepiece is in tip-top shape. Our Smiths, fine Swiss repair. All right, and we are back. Normally we have a commercial for our good friends at Godden Porsche and Godden Classic of Las Vegas. It wasn't queued up in the system there. Apologize to our friends over there, but we will be seeing them at Works Reunion Friday. That's this Friday in Monterey. I'm going to be getting out of here tomorrow morning, flying over to Monterey. We're going to be hanging out, having a great time. My partner Michael Deeb is already there. We are hoping to get a live report from Monterey from Michael Deeb. He is running a little behind, but that's okay. We have plenty to do. We've got cars to make predictions on. This is the fun part of the show. How you guys doing over there in the Nerd Herd? I'm sorry, usually I try to get more of your comments on the show when we do these live shows, but since I'm pushing buttons and introducing the cars, I'm a little bit sloppy tonight, so apologize for that. Again, I think we have some new people in the Nerd Herd, so it's really awesome to see some new names popping up in there, and it looks like the Nerd Herd is doing a great job at welcoming them.
And correcting me.
And correcting, well, I mean, that's kind of Buddha's gig, right? He's
This is true.
You know, he's always wrong about stuff. So every chance that he gets that he's right, he's got to make it a point to get. Sorry, Buddha, I'm just giving you a hard time.
He's like, oh, Andy's wrong. I better bring it up.
Andy's wrong. That's right.
Philip said somebody got laid for the first time in that Merc.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of DNA in the backseat of that sucker. All right. Look, the big question tonight is, is this the worst week ever to try to sell your classic or enthusiast car on Bring a Trailer or Cars and Bids or Hagerty or any of the online auction sites? Because right now Monterey Car Week is going on and all of the big live auctions are happening. So the big heavy-handed bidders are in Monterey. They're drinking beer, they're getting free drinks, and they're getting loosened up, and they've got cars all over the place, and the cars are right there in front of them. They don't have to look at pictures. They don't have to get anything shipped. It's right there. All the big buyers are there. Is that affecting the results on cars that are listed this week? Andy's car, SLS, that sure indicates that that was what is in fact happening, because his car just did not do well. Whereas we saw Doug DeMiro get $180,000 for an 85 Mercedes. So what the heck is going on? All right, let's take a look at some new listings. Let's make some predictions and see what we can figure out here. This first car on the list, again, failing to do my job because I love you guys so much. All right, this first one is a 2010, maybe. No, it's not. Sorry. Oh, boy. Sorry about that, guys. Oh, dead air is so much fun. We are actually starting with a very sexy car. Okay, this car, look, I've been excited about talking about this one because this sucker is super rare. And this is the kind of car that definitely would be getting a lot of attention at Monterey. So I am concerned for the seller of this one. This is a 2009. Feast your eyes on this. 2009 Alfa Romeo 8C Spider. Yes, a Spider. Most of these are coupes. This is a very rare car, guys. It only has 2,200 miles. This car is listed out of Florida by a dealer. This has the 4.7 liter V8. It has the limited slip diff. It's got a 6-speed semi-automatic transaxle, so it's flappy paddles. But look, I don't know if either of you guys have ever seen one of these or driven one of these or heard one of these going by, but I can think of very few cars I've ever experienced being more just audibly visceral. I mean, and I hate using the word visceral because it's so hackneyed, it's so overused. But the first time I ever saw one of these, I was actually on South Beach in Florida. It was at night. It was in February of all months, and you could, if you've ever been in downtown Miami, I'm not someone that knows Miami very well, but there's so many high rises, and there was just all of a sudden this noise. It sounded like an F1 car was coming. And it was just bouncing off of all the high rises. You couldn't tell which direction it was coming from. Then all of a sudden, this red blur just goes screaming by, and it was one of these. Like, oh my God, that's the coolest car I think I've ever seen. And but that was a coupe. I've never seen a convertible one. I've never seen a convertible one in real life. And we talk about cabrio phobes these days. A lot of people would rather have the coupe. They don't like the cabrios. And I understand that. But I think there's just no way to have more fun than to have a beautiful car like this and the top down, to have your hair going in the wind, even though I don't have any. Andy, what do you think of the 8C 2009 Alfa Romeo Spider?
That is just a beautiful hunk of metal right there.
Right?
And I'll tell you, I had zero experience with Alfa Romeos until this past weekend. I was in Florida and I rented a Giulia with the sport package, the Velace on the front fender. That thing in the D setting. I love the D. The D setting, oh my gosh, that thing was ridiculous to drive. So I can only imagine how glorious convertible like this with that motor and being able to hear that sound behind you. This gets me to open my pocketbook. I would trade the SLS for this, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good SLS. I don't know if it's worth as much as one of these. I think if someone had one of these and they would take your SLS, I mean, is this worth both your SLSs? It might be. I don't know. These are worth a lot of money. This car has 2 days to go, so it's gonna close on Saturday. So some of the auctions will still be going on over the weekend. This is the kind of car, I know the coupes bring around $300,000. It's already at $230,000 at 12 bids. I think that because of the convertible and the rarity, unlike other cars like call it 911s or whatever, where people have to have the coupes over the convertibles, I think the fact that this one is more rare, I think is going to bring more money, but I think it's going to be a problem because Monterey is still going on. This car is in Florida, so the seller couldn't have brought it out to Monterey. It wouldn't have made sense. I guess they could have, but I would have waited a week if I had known that Car Week was going on. I'm going to go ahead and guess $300,000 and hand it off to Andy.
How many miles did you say are on it?
A couple. Miles. Yeah, it was like 2,000 miles. Let me check. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a 2009, you said, with only 2,000 miles on it. It's like a new car. I mean, this rental only had, I don't know, maybe 30,000 miles on it. It already had some of the typical Italian quirks that we all know and love, like the one turn signal just flashed real fast all the time, off and on, even though I wasn't using a turn signal. But I could see this car. I mean, I did not have any idea that they were selling for that much. So this is a shot in the dark, but I'll say, what was your guess?
Well, before you give me a number, I'll give you, our good friend Gerd, friend of the show, who I think he's the reigning Yahtzee champion, meaning he has gotten the most correct guesses of any Nerd Herd member. He says that this exact car was bid to $289 in March of 2022 on BAT and did not sell. So here it is. Now, that was top of the market. Things were crazy then, but I don't know. One thing it seems like that we've seen is that a lot of cars have corrected, and there has been a softening in the market for most cars, unless they're really, really rare, really, really unique, and really, really perfect. And this car seems like it fits that bill. If my partner Michael Deeb were here, he would be able to tell you how many of these were built. I know this is a rare car, but I don't know exactly how rare it is. So I apologize for not being able to give you that number. If I peruse the ad, I'm sure I could figure it out. But that said, you got a number?
As ever, I appreciate the Nerd Herd for their education above and beyond what we mere mortals have.
Right.
So I was going to start with a 3, but now hearing some of the backstory, I'll do $299.
$299. All right, so you're going to put it right underneath me. I'll take that bid. Nerd Herd's all over the place. Some people are up to $315. Buddha, who Mr. Tupac was shot in a BMW, says $315. Ross Churchhouse, out there on the other side of the planet, he's saying that this thing's going to bring where did he go? $329. Yowzers. But then we've got some low bids, 250s or whatever. So we shall see. I think that this car should do well over $300,000, but I'm holding back because of the fact that the auctions are still happening. What do you guys think this car will bring? And will Monterey Car Week live auctions affect what this car will bring? Let us know in the comments below. And we are going to get to another car to see if we can answer the question, is Monterey Car Week making this the worst week ever to try to sell a car on BAT and Cars and Bids? All right, the next car on the list, this is a little bit more our speed. This one is a 78 930, but it's not just your regular 930. We see a lot of 930s around. Sorry guys, my little doohickey is not doing its thing. Okay, look at this. This is another car that's just going to be great for you guys to look at. This thing is just so pretty. Check this out. Here we go. Clicking the button. All right. Our good friend Danny at DG Vintage up there in my old neck of the woods in Snohomish, Washington. This car is hanging out in Marysville. This is one of DG Vintage's custom gigs. He has done a lot of cars that have kind of gotten internet famous. He was one of these guys. You may remember that wide body 964 that he created that had the really cool livery on it, that had it was one of those Martini liveries that had all kinds of other stickers and a big roof rack on it. And he had this really cool photo shoot done where he looked like a bank robber. He had the mask over his head and he had a machine gun. So this is his latest creation. He does kind of like one car at a time out there. And look at this thing. This is just, I don't know what color it is. It says it's got 513 miles shown. I don't know what that means. This is a TMU car, of course. Turbocharged 3.3 liter flat six 4-speed manual, tangerine paint, black Recaro pole positions and seats, 17-inch BBS E88 modular wheels, whale tail real spoiler. It's got the hand crank windows, RSR style fiberglass bumpers, RS style carpeting and door panels, K27 superchargers, and an Andile Racing intercooler. This thing has got to be a hoot to drive. I know that road. That is one of the best roads in the world out there in Granite Falls. It's kind of a secret squirrel road. If any of you guys, any of my friends out there, this is where this car is being photographed, is probably 15 miles from where I grew up in Lake Rosiger. That is a fantastic road. Look at those pictures. He always does a great job in shooting. What do you think of this car, Andy?
It's no wonder you're a car guy growing up in an area with roads like that.
Yeah.
This car talks to me because, like it, I was born in 1978. So this particular car, the year, I mean, I would really enjoy driving this. I'd be terrified to drive it, but I would enjoy it.
Yeah. Have you ever driven one of these?
No, I have not.
They are a little scary. That's why these were called the Widowmaker.
Widowmaker.
Just getting into this car, we didn't get a chance to really dig into it deep, but going through these pictures, It looks like Danny really pulled all the stops. I mean, this is basically a borderline race car. One of the things that makes these cars fun is that 4-speed transmission. A lot of people are like, oh, the 89 is the best year of the 930 or the 911 turbo to get because it has a 5-speed. But the reason why the 930s and the turbos have a 4-speed is because you got to stay in boost, right? This car is not a lot of fun when it's not in boost. But when it is, and if you can keep it in boost, the reason why these cars killed so many people back in the 70s and early 80s is because tire technology back then really wasn't very good. So if you went into a corner at, call it, I don't know, 7/10, you're cooking along and you've got your foot halfway into the throttle, not at full boost. Then you get at the apex and all of a sudden you have 12/10 of power and 1987 technology tires. That car is now an expensive merry-go-round and you are going into a ditch or oncoming traffic or God knows where you're going to be. It's not where you want to be because correcting one of these once it starts sliding is darn near impossible. But once you get used to one of these, and nowadays with modern rubber, you can really keep them in boost, and you just stay in the power. Make sure you're manipulating the throttle correctly so that when you go into a corner, you don't all of a sudden go surprise yourself and wind up going the other way. You see a lot of these cars with big, huge rubber. Our friend Chef William has one of these. Shout out to Chef William, by the way. It's his birthday tonight. That's his head over my head right there. It's his birthday, so everybody say happy birthday to Chef, will you guys?
Happy birthday, Chef.
Happy birthday, Chef. All right, what do we think this car is going to bring? Typically, the 930s right now, for basic ones, nice, clean, stock ones are going from anywhere from 100 to 140. This car being a total custom job, it's really hard to say. I mean, this thing was stripped of paint and redone. Boy, I guess I'm first to bid. This sucks. I give my partner, Michael Deeb, a hard time, but it is tough to be the first person to bid. Let me just tell you. I'm going to say this car looks so good, but it ends in 2 days. If this car were next week or if this car were last week, I think this car should easily bring $160,000, $175,000. But I think this week, with everything that's going on, I think a lot of the eyeballs just aren't going to be there. So I hate to say it, but I'm going to say $110, and I think this thing fails to sell. Andy, what do you think will happen with this car?
You're making it easy to take the over because I do think it's going to bring a little bit more than that. I noticed it doesn't have any creature comforts. I mean, you mentioned it's like practically a race car. This thing looks like a race car. I mean, yeah. There's no, I don't even see a radio when you were scrolling through the dash photos. Yeah. So this is for what? Someone who wants it for a garage decoration, or maybe when they take the antique cars out on the track, maybe something like that. But
I don't know. Wait, hold on. A garage decoration? This thing is built. This thing is built for driving. Those are KW V3 coilovers. So this thing has a coilover conversion instead of having the torsion bars. It does look like it has heat. Those are heat exchangers under there. So in the Northwest, you can defrost the windows. You're good to go. This is a driver's car. I don't think this is just a pretty look at car. But I'm sorry. I apologize for interrupting.
No worries. I'll say 120 for this one.
120.
Again,
all right.
I'm still butthurt, and I'm a contrarian and bringing everyone down with me.
You're like, my car didn't sell. This ain't going to sell either. But you give that number. Do you think it won't sell at that number? You think that's too low to
I
get
think
this
it's
car
too
going?
low. Yeah, for the amount of time and money into that, a full, respray and everything like that. Yeah, I think it's too low to sell.
Yeah, I think most everyone is. I don't know. I wouldn't say like Randy B still thinks it's going to bring 169. Hey, Dwayne, what's up, buddy? Hey, Dwayne Wick from Wick's Garage. Everybody check out his YouTube channel and follow Wick's Garage, Dwayne Wick on Instagram if you need like your daily fix of Porsche nerddom, like actually he has been chronicling the rebuild of a friend of ours car for the last, I don't know, year or something like that. Like every nut, screw, everything. It's crazy. You'll just get in the weeds, but he's putting up content every single day on Instagram. Check out Wick's Garage over there. Okay, so everyone's kind of thinking that this car is worth buck 45, buck 37. I hope you guys are right. I agree with all of you in the nerd herd. I just don't think it's going to make it because of Car Week. I think it's doomed because of that. But I sure want to be wrong because we like Danny. Danny was on my show, Porsche Road Trip. And I would say go watch an episode of that, but I don't think it's up anywhere. So, but
we watched it when it was on the Pluto channel.
On Pluto channel,
Yeah,
you
we
watched it. All
stumbled
right,
upon
very
it
nice.
years
Yeah.
ago and watched it.
So was Dwayne on there too. All right, well there it is. What do you guys think this car will bring? Will it fail to sell because of all of the live auctions sucking up all the buyers, or because this car is so flashy and looks so good and is so badass, it's not only going to sell, but it's going to bring big money? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And we've got another car to see if we can answer the question. Is BAT the bad place to be this week during Car Week when everyone else is selling their cars at live auctions? We're going to go back to Porsche here. This is another Porsche. I know we're always kind of Porsche heavy, but this isn't a typical car that we talk about right here. This is a 2010 Porsche Cayenne S. This is the Transsyberia car. So this is kind of a rare Cayenne. We've talked a lot about how the exotic cars and the really high-end cars have probably taken, I wouldn't say the biggest hit with, call it the correction. The biggest hit has definitely happened with luxury sedans. We talked about that Aston Martin Rapide a couple of weeks ago. Poor guy lost $150,000 from when he bought it just a few years ago. EVs have just taken it in the rear. You can't sell a Fisker to save your life. But SUVs have seemed to be okay. This is kind of a special collector SUV. This is the Transsyberia. This is the one that was made for going off-road to go do the Dakar. This is basically a Cayenne GTS. So that has the bigger hopped up V8 engine. The suspension is a little higher. This one has the off-road tires. This one has a roof rack, although that is not the Porsche roof rack. There is a Porsche basket. That is not it. This one has an aftermarket basket, and it looks like those Hella lights on the top. There is a light bar that Porsche made for some of the Transsiberians. You had to option it. It does not look like this one has it. That's an aftermarket bar. But all the Transsiberians had lockers, front and rear, had skid plates. This car is definitely the kind of vehicle that can go almost anywhere. I've owned multiple Cayennes, particular ones with manual transmissions. They didn't make this car in manual transmission, which is a total shame. But the Cayenne GTS is a formidable rig, and these first-gen Cayennes are the real deal when it comes to off-road. People do not realize how good they are off-road. Not just the Transsiberians, but any of them. So when you get one that does have the cool Transsyberia stuff, and it's kind of neat to see the big orange graphics and everything all over it. It definitely is an eye catcher. What do you think of the Transsiberian Cayenne there, Andy?
So as I've been on Bring a Trailer a lot this past week, this one caught my eye, and I actually was perusing the comments and all that. This thing has some miles on it. Like, someone's driven this thing and enjoyed it, which always makes it doesn't scare me off when we have an older German car that has some miles on them, because I feel like they last longer the more you drive them. There was one comment, though. This one didn't have the skid plate on the bottom. Someone brought that up in the comments, that they thought that the Transsiberians all had that. But if you look at the belly photos, it's missing anything over any of the differentials and whatnot underneath. But
that's interesting. We'll have to take a look at that.
But it's still, for the mileage that it has, it's clean. And like you said, where are you going to find another one of these?
Yeah, it is a pretty darn rare bird. Another thing about the GTS that's pretty cool is the steering wheel. This one in Alcantara, the steering wheels are thicker. They're not bigger diameter. They're just thicker. If you ever get a first-gen Cayenne, swap out the steering wheel with the GTS steering wheel. It makes a huge difference. Some of them are heated. I don't know if this one is heated. A lot of these Cayennes of this generation have a problem with the steering lock system, and that can be very expensive and problematic. This one does have 91,000 miles there. It's got the big cool orange gauges that say Transsyberia on it. This one does not have PDCC. I don't know if any of them had the PDDC or PDCC or whatever, but yeah, this thing has a lot of cool stuff. Big question is, what do we think this car will bring? with 91,000 miles. Let's see. It's got 2 days to go, so this one's going to close on Saturday. That's during Historics at Laguna Seca during Car Week. A lot of people are going to be there. How much will this bring? Wick's Garage. Dwayne says the $8,000 belly skid plate was left at Midas when they did an oil change. He's probably right about that. God, could you imagine? I could see that happening too. All right, what will this car bring? We've seen these at the height bring $60,000. When you compare that to a GTS, which really isn't that much different, the most money you would see a 90,000 mile GTS would be like 20 something at best. So to see a 100% or more premium is not uncommon. This car is only sitting at $15,500 with 2 days to go. Usually on BAT, we see doublings of Porsches on the last day and the last couple hours. I think this one will do that. I think it'll get up to 30. The question is, how much over 30 will it get? I don't think it's bringing 50. I think it's too many miles. So I'm going to say 32,958 and hand it off to Andy. What do you think?
I like this car. I do. I don't know if it's going to get to 30 with 2 days left, and the fact that it's missing what Wick's Garage said, it's an $8,000 skid plate.
I think he's pulling that number out of his butt. I'm sure it's expensive, but I don't know about that.
Where are you going to find it?
Yeah,
I mean,
good point.
There's
Good
not
point.
too many of them out there.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna stay under 30. I'll say 27 on this one. But it's intriguing because it's even with 91,000 miles, it's super clean. Like the seats and everything, the interior, you don't see the scratched off soft plastic that you see on so many from this era. It looks like someone loved it and it didn't get abused off road. You know, looking at the bottom of it, it's not. It doesn't look like somebody lost the belly pan and then went out and boogered it up on something. So I'll stay with 27 on this one.
Yeah, and I'm still going to go back to the whole Monterey Car Week thing. I think is going to affect it. I think if this car was last week, it probably would have gotten closer to 40. And maybe next week it'll do closer to 40. But a weekend close during Car Week, I think, does not bode well for this thing because this is a bit of a collector car. It's kind of like that Mustang cop car that we were talking about earlier. It's definitely nothing like the Mustang cop car in the sense of how it drives or looks or anything like that. But it is this is one of these auxiliary vehicles for rich guys that have a really cool collection. It's kind of like, you have a farm and you got all the animals, but then you have the sheepdog, right? You've got 1 million sheep and maybe you've got the prized horses or the prized cow or something like that, but you get a little sheepdog because he's got a job. He's not as expensive. The sheepdog doesn't cost as much as the big prized heifer or the prized sheep, but he's more valuable. He's cooler. Everybody likes the sheepdog, and you don't eat the sheepdog. Hopefully. All right. What do you guys think this Transsyberia will bring on BAT, or will it bring the big money? Will it matter that all the folks are hanging out in Monterey Car Week, or does it just not matter because it's just so cool a car and it's not that much money, so someone will bring the money? Let us know in the comments below. All right. We have gone almost an hour, and my partner Michael Deeb has not made it on to the show. We were hoping he was going to do a live broadcast from here. Let me see if we can reach him. He is saying that he's on his way to the Jet Setter. He should be there at 7:30. That was 10 minutes ago. So let's see what's going on.
And you know that Cayenne, that's one of those you don't end up with by accident. You know, like I feel like you don't like, oh, you know what? I've been looking for a Cayenne, and then you stumble upon this one. This is someone who's looking for this. Just like some of the specialty Porsches, other Porsches we've had and the cars that Lindsay and I own, we've, went and looked for the Alms TT, went and looked for the RS60 Boxster Spider. Someone's looking for this car, and maybe I'm convincing myself I should have bid higher, but someone's going to pay a little bit of a premium for that.
Yeah. I mean, there's some big names that have these vehicles. You remember when the 918 Spider came out?
Oh, yeah.
Right. And before that car came out, they were a little bit behind. Porsche wasn't on time delivering those. So they made a special edition 997 Turbo that had the special 918 script down the side in the same, like a like a alien green or neon green or black.
Yeah, for the hybrid green color.
Right.
Yeah.
And so anyone who had ordered the 918, they had the option to buy the 918 997 Turbo Special Edition. I kind of feel like these Transsiberians are like that to anyone that has any cool modern 911, right? If you have a GT3, like, I mean, how many black with orange script GT3 RSs are out there? A lot, right? That's a pretty common, or an orange GT3 of some sort with black script. These two vehicles in the garage go together. They're two great tastes that taste great together. I think that that's why they just, it's like, yeah, I don't want just a regular Cayenne. If I have a GT3 RS, I have to get the fancy Cayenne. And I will say this right now, and I'm a big fan of our friends at Godden Porsche and Godden Classic of Las Vegas, but I would way rather have a Transsiberian .2 first gen Cayenne than any Cayenne that has been made since 2013. There's nothing Porsche sells in the SUV world that I would rather have than a Transsiberian. I mean,
Even
Porsche,
with 91,000 miles on it.
yeah, exactly. I mean, and I own a 2018 GTS Macan, right? I would happily trade that for this. I don't know why the hell I bought that thing. I should have just found myself a Transsiberian. I'm not so bright. All right, I'm killing time trying to see if Michael Deeb's going to get in here. It doesn't seem like it's going to happen. We are going to try. We might have a show Sunday. I'm not entirely sure. We'll put it on the Instagram machine if we think that's going to happen. But both Michael Deeb and I will be getting home from Car Week on Sunday. I don't know if we'll be back in time to do the 6:30 show, but we should know the day before or so we'll make an announcement. Thanks for hanging out, you guys. It's always great to do this show with you guys, and again, I sure am happy to see new names in the chat. Also, give a thumbs up if you don't mind. We really appreciate that. That helps bring more people to the show. Andy, thanks for hanging out, man. Sorry your car didn't sell today, but we're gonna stay positive,
and we'll try again. I mean, the fact that we have another SLS AMG, poor Andy, his SLS AMG didn't sell. He's gonna now put up another one. Oh, boo-hoo.
What do we do with all these SLS AMGs? Jeez, we got too many. Lindsay, thanks for hanging out and making the studio a cooler place to be. Wish we had a camera on you. Oh, she's gonna go over
Everybody
there and say,
does.
Wait, here we go. There she is. She's back. All right. All right, we're gonna close it that way. Thanks, guys. See you when we see you next. Bye.
Peace out.
Get those nerds!